Hey, thanks for hanging out with us for today's episode. But before I let you go, let's spend a couple minutes with my good friend, Mr. Jeff Schick. He joins us once a week or so around here as a great sponsor of our community and someone who's helping countless sellers in our community with Amazon policy and legal challenges. And he's always got an information and an interesting topic full of information for us. What do you got today, Jeff?
So this one's going to be, it's all about good invoices, good receipts. And then, it corresponds with good sources, right? So,
Yeah, and we've talked about it before, but nothing's really changed. But get us up to speed.
well, I will tell you, we've talked about it before, but yesterday I had a really cool conversation with one of my clients, and they said, I heard you talking with Jim about how to find good suppliers. So I found this product I wanted to sell. I called the manufacturer and I asked them where I could buy it. And they told him which distributors. So he opened an account with all the distributors and started buying the product from those distributors. And now he's got legit invoices, and he was happy because he got better pricing than when he was doing it retail arbitrage or online arbitrage. And he knows that he's going from safe places because he had talked to one of the sales reps at the manufacturer who said, call this distributor and tell them I sent you. And they opened an account for him so that he was able to start, selling those products. So I know that's like a very simplified version of what we've been talking about, but it kind of goes to reflect how simple sometimes the correct way of doing business can be, which is if you're trying to find a legitimate source for your product, sometimes picking up the phone or going on the internet and looking up the manufacturer and seeing who are their authorized distributors. That's the easiest way to find out who your authorized distributors are. For products that are sold at retail, you can also find authorized retailers. So, like if you're trying to find a pair of tennis shoes that you want to retail arbitrage, and you go to the manufacturer's website and you type in your zip code, and that says that, Roadrunner Sports is an authorized, you know, seller of their goods, that Roadrunner Sports receipt should be good and valid in Amazon's eyes for proving authenticity if you ever get a supply chain verification.
Because as I've heard you say before, Jeff, the first thing Amazon's going to do if they get a complaint from someone saying this isn't an authentic product, they're going to call the brand and say, I've got a receipt here from Roadrunner Sports.
Yeah,
Do you guys authorize them to sell your brand? And the brand better say, yep, we do.
right.
Otherwise, the seller with that receipt might as well have a sticky note with a signature on it. It's not a legit receipt
It,
authorized by the brand. It's not complicated, but
yeah,
for some reason, there's a lot of confusion in this arena.
it is. And I think it's just because a lot of people don't understand that just because it says invoice doesn't mean it's legit. So like a good example of this is I had a client that I used to work with that one time got a counterfeit complaint for a pair of shoes that they sold.
Mhm.
They had bought that pair of shoes from a friend of theirs who owned a retail store that sold tennis shoes. The friend didn't want to put their retail store's relationship with the brand in jeopardy. So when they provided receipts to the seller, it would just be made on in Microsoft Excel, and it'd say, imagine it, the guy's name is Jose. It'd say Jose's shoe warehouse, and he would create, 100 tennis shoes and, put all the information that Amazon would need on a receipt. The only problem is that Jose's shoe warehouse is not the name of his store, and it wasn't the name of any real business that you could track. So
Right.
just because it said that didn't mean anything. So then when the seller supplied that receipt, Amazon came back with an unverifiable supplier. We can't verify your supplier. Please provide your supplier invoice. At that point, Jose's shoe warehouse would need to provide a receipt from his actual retail store, whatever it may be. And then the actual retail store might even need to provide their receipt from the brand itself, showing that they bought real shoes from the brand. However, obviously the guy was not supposed to be selling to Amazon sellers, and that's why he didn't want to put his retail relationship in jeopardy, because he had a contract with the brand saying, I won't sell to Amazon sellers. And so he thought that this was a creative workaround. So it just goes to prove that, you know, invoice without anything behind it is just a piece of paper. But a receipt, even just like a retail receipt from Walmart, is better than that random piece of paper we just described from Jose, because a Walmart receipt for New Balance shoes is, 100% legit. You know that Walmart's selling authentic New Balance or Nike or Adidas
Yeah.
shoes.
Everything sold at a Walmart store that you walk into is legit, good to go. The brand has approved them to distribute their products.
Right.
Walmart.com, however, third-party sellers, that's another story, right? Obviously,
Right.
the brand isn't going to recognize those third-party sellers. They could have bought it from 50 units out of someone's garage at a yard sale. There's no way to know where that stuff came from.
Right. So you never want to buy, that was another thing. We had a seller who had bought 100 units of a product that from a Walmart third-party seller, got hit with Section 3. They're now wondering, what are they going to do to get their inventory and funds back? And the unfortunate answer to that is there's not an answer. There's no
Very
solution
limited
because
options.
you,
Yeah.
Amazon has suspended you because they believe you sold counterfeit products. All you have is Walmart third-party seller receipts. When they asked the third-party seller to provide them with an invoice, the third-party seller made a fake invoice from the manufacturer, which we could tell was wrong because the
Yeah.
manufacturer's name was misspelled.
Right.
So when we called the manufacturer, they're like, this isn't our invoice. We didn't. And the seller
Not
was like, can you
limited.
submit it? I said, well, no, because the brand's not going to validate this, and Amazon's going to pick up the phone and call them just like we would. And the fact that the brand's name is misspelled on the invoice is a pretty big red flag that it isn't going to make Amazon think it's fake,
Hmm.
So,
Hmm. So there's
yeah.
a huge advantage in just staying within the guardrails that have been established of making sure that wherever you're buying your products from, the brand that you're buying recognizes that wholesaler, distributor,
Yeah,
retailer as legitimate. It really is
exactly.
that simple. Now, we talked a little bit about some interesting international angles, however, where maybe you're buying, you find out that a brand you like is selling really cheap in another country, and you like buy a bunch and ship it to you. You can get yourself into some trouble there as well, even though you may have a fairly legitimate looking invoice or receipt. Are you seeing some of that?
We haven't seen as much lately, but it still is an ongoing concern because the fact that unless you have the manufacturer's written consent to import products into the United States, it's considered an parallel import. So, brands routinely sell things cheaper overseas because they need to. So, like for instance,
Currency, yeah.
currency, whatever it may be, but also the things that they sell overseas are not always the same. So
Right.
like I give my pet shampoo example all the time. I used to sell a pet shampoo product. It was a French company. The product itself was made in Dallas, Texas for the United States. And the product in the Europe and European Union was made in France. Um, I realized that I could buy the stuff in Texas, well, Georgia, buy it from the Texas warehouse, ship it to the United Kingdom when they were still part of the EU, and sell it into the EU for cheaper than they were selling it over there. And I thought I'd struck, a gold mine
Gold,
because
international gold.
I
Yeah.
was I was getting the euros are used to historically be worth more than dollars.
Right.
The pound was worth more than dollars, and I was buying it at dollars, redeeming in euros and pounds, and had a nice little currency exchange arbitrage going in addition to the arbitrage itself going on with the product. The only thing that I didn't realize at the time was that the product in the United States was a different formula because the product in Europe was illegal to sell in the United States, and the product in the United States was illegal to sell in the European Union.
Mhm.
And they just never bothered to tell anybody those differences because they didn't need to. It was,
One of
so
the things I would imagine is one customer complaint saying, I got this product and it says, packaged for distribution in Canada only, and I bought it in the US. Like, is that
right,
legit? Is this the real product? Right? Red flags go up. You got to prove that you're legit above board. Yeah. So the basic advice we give to all new sellers, until you've been in the game a long time, just don't import anything.
right,
Ever. Just don't. It's like we say, don't set up new listings. Just don't. You don't know what you're doing yet. So yeah, if
right.
you're getting into importing early as a new seller, especially, you're probably in over your head.
Yeah. And I mean, there's so many fake companies out there too that make themselves look legitimate, like for
Mhm.
instance, Stylevana. And a lot of a lot of OA sellers love Stylevana. Amazon recognizes them as the counterfeiter that they are because of the fact that they're based in China and the products are shipped from China when you buy from them.
Mhm.
Yes, they've got a sleek looking website that,
Mhm.
yes, everything is spelled perfectly in regular English, but it's not legit product and it's not a legit source.
So you're
So
saying I shouldn't buy in bulk from Temu and flip it, even though it looks just like the product I'm selling on Amazon?
now that's counterfeit too. So, and if it shows up in an e-packet, that should be a first red flag that it's, and for the sellers that don't know, an e-packet is a discount shipping packet sent from China. So anything that you see has crossed international borders should be a red flag that I don't think I should sell this on Amazon unless I have talked to the manufacturer and they said, yes, this is a legit distributor. And yes, they're authorized to sell to United States consumers or, resellers.
Yeah.
So it's one thing if you're buying, an Italian cosmetic and you're going to, cosmetic.it, the Italian domain and purchasing and they're shipping to you from Italy. That would be fine. But if you're buying an Italian cosmetic from a cosmetic company in Portugal, who's then shipping to you in the United States, that's a huge red flag because the labeling laws, the ingredient laws are very different between the United States, Canada, Mexico, and Europe.
Yeah, the
So
packaging laws, everything. Yeah. So just to give everyone some hope, there
yeah,
are tens of thousands of authorized brands distributed, hundreds of thousands, millions of brands distributed at tens of thousands or more authorized retailers, wholesalers, distributors right in the United States with legitimate receipts and invoices.
yeah,
Stay in that lane.
you
That's
got
where
it.
the opportunity is, and you'll be rewarded. Let other people, dip their toes into those dangerous territories and watch what happens over time. Amazon is getting really good at cracking down on the rules, and yeah. So I often say, Jeff, 100% of the time, based on experience with tens of thousands of students have come through our community, I've never seen a legitimate receipt or invoice ultimately turned down. Sometimes you got to escalate it. Like, hey, guys, this is Walmart. Come on. This
Yeah,
is a good receipt. Okay, yeah, then they approve it. Sometimes you'll get a little resistance, but
it,
ultimately, I've never seen an exception to that rule where a
yeah.
good receipt or invoice is turned down.
I can tell you, we've got one case in 5 years where Amazon rejected a Walmart receipt, but it was and didn't reinstate the seller. But it turned out it was because he'd acknowledged too many other IP complaints that he
Mhm.
didn't have good receipts for. And the Walmart product was just the final nail in the coffin for them to say that this seller was too high risk for our platform.
Sure,
So, and
sure.
even then they said, we don't dispute the validity of the Walmart receipt. We just think this seller is not a good fit for Amazon.
That was just the little incident that brought him onto their radar, and they reviewed his whole case log and said, no, we're done with this guy. And it happened to be the last thing they reviewed was that receipt. Yeah. So again, the streak continues, 100%
Yeah,
acceptance of legitimate
exactly.
receipts and invoices based on, again, we've had tens of thousands of people come through our community. Our Facebook group has 75,000 people in there. But this continues to be a bit of a frustrating issue for some people because for some reason, there's confusion here, but hopefully we cleared it up for a lot of folks
It
today.
is. And the one thing I've told some of our clients to do and that is working well, if they find a site and they're like, I don't know if it's good, they run it by us. If
Mhm.
we still don't know whether it's good, we'll tell the seller, hey, send customer service at brand.com an email and ask them, I found this product on, I don't know, homedepot.com. We
Oh,
know
I did that with
that's
Legos
good.
just the other day.
Yeah.
We're buying Legos from a website. So I just emailed, I jumped on Lego's site. It took me 45 seconds to find a link where I could say, hey, is this a legitimate distributor of your products? They got back to me about 3 hours later. Yeah, they're authorized. That's a distributor.
Yeah.
Done. I could order as much as I wanted from that website, knowing I was safe.
And you save that email so that if you ever have a supply chain audit from Amazon in the future and they say we can't validate that this supplier sells items in new condition,
Mhm.
you say, well, here's an email from Legos saying that it's a valid supplier.
Exactly. It just takes a couple minutes of extra research and you're good to go.
Right.
Love it.
So
Well done. Hopefully we cleared this up for a lot of folks today and appreciate your time as always, Jeff. We'll do this again next week if you're around, all right?
sounds good. Thank you.
And for the listeners, this was Jeff Schick of jeffschick.com. Check out just for a few dollars per month, you can have him on your team, helping you make these decisions and have his team available to you. And we'll talk to you again real soon, listeners. And Mr. Jeff, see you next week.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Bye
Bye.
for now.